Good morning, Jody.
Good morning, Miss Robin.
So, you want to tell everybody what we're doing today?
Well, we finally pulled the trigger. We're finally doing it. We're finally recording our podcast. How long have we been
Yay!
talking about this?
Maybe 2 years.
At least 2 years. Yeah, yeah. So we are finally recording our very first edition of the Special Agent Mom podcast featuring Jody Drake
Robin Eubank Callis.
and we are both uh, county extension agents for K-State Research and Extension. And I am in Pratt County.
And I am in Barber County. So, we're both here in South Central Kansas.
Mhm. Yep.
And Jody, how did you come up with the name for us?
Well, I decided we definitely needed to have moms in our name because really that's our most important job. I'm a mom of two. My daughters are, well, the oldest one's a junior in college. She's a junior at Kansas State University, and the youngest is a junior at Pratt High School. And your mom as well. How old is your kiddo?
My little boy is in kindergarten. So, yeah, I'm on the opposite end of the momming spectrum.
Yeah, yeah. So we've got that's really our first and foremost most important job in our lives is being a mom. And then we the jobs that actually pay us is being extension professionals for Kansas State University in our respective counties. So,
Yeah.
I thought it all worked out pretty well.
It did. It did. And when we were getting ready for this, did you realize we have over 40 years of experience as county extension agents between the two of us?
Oh, sure, make me feel old at the get-go. Way to go. Yeah.
Hey, you're not much older than I am, so we're right there together.
Yikes. Yikes. Well,
So,
that's it. My oldest daughter makes me feel old all the time, so it's all good. It's all good.
so Jody, I know we wanted to kick off right now, but how was your Thanksgiving? How was your holiday meals?
Well, the holidays are always interesting. It was good. Let me start by saying it was delightful. It was wonderful, but they're always evolving. And I think you would agree that we're kind of both at that those stage in our lives where we are probably transitioning from being the guest to being the hostess. So yeah, so it was good. All the family gathered at Dad's house. Now, keeping my dad's a widower, and so we all descend upon his house though, because his house is the biggest and has the most space to host us all. So, how about you? Where do you gather?
So Thanksgiving we did two. We did my husband's side of the family and then we did my side of the family. And I really still was just a guest. I mean, a guest that brought food and helped do dishes and put things together, but I still didn't have to do all the heavy lifting for planning this last holiday season.
Yeah, yeah. So we hosted my sisters and I've got two sisters at Dad's house, and then we kind of divvied up who was going to bring what to Dad's house, and Dad just sat back and said, "Feed me," and yeah, that's how it worked. We cleaned his house before everybody got there, and it was good. It was nice to see everybody. So my oldest sister has two kids. They both made it, and one of my kids made it. The oldest one, the college kid, was in Ireland because who wouldn't want to go to Ireland instead of spending the day with their family? And it was good. It was a good day, although a little bit different because we celebrated in the evening instead of at noon. So the old man, aka my dad, was a little out of sorts because that's not how we've always done it. But he got over it. It was good.
Ours was 2 o'clock one day and then Yeah, close to noon the next day, 1 o'clock, something like that.
Yeah. So how does your little guy adapt when you don't eat right at noon?
So I learned a trick from another mom, and she said, unless you're feeding food that your kids regularly eat, feed them before you go to Thanksgiving dinner. And so I will admit to doing that. We had a very hefty snack
Mhm.
mid-morning.
Yeah.
So he is a breakfast sandwich fiend, day or night, or just about any time. So he got a mid-morning second breakfast so that way it didn't affect the time
Breakfast
he's using.
like
Oh,
the hobbits. He had second breakfast.
it's second breakfast. Um, yeah,
Uh,
last Saturday he had demanded a third breakfast. So I think I need to start sizing up in his clothes before long.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, that was how we got through the holidays, was a second breakfast for a couple of days.
You have to excuse my train noise. My office sits right on the train. Um, so I remember when I was a guest, I'm divorced, but when I did used to go to the in-laws' house, I was never allowed to cook anything. So
Oh,
yeah, yeah. Now whether she didn't think I was a good cook or she just didn't trust me, I have no idea. But I was allowed to bring one thing, and that was the sacred cheese log. Now the cheese log only had three ingredients: shredded cheddar, sharp cheddar, cream cheese, and then you rolled it in chili powder. That's
okay.
it. That's it. And so I was allowed to make that, and then you slice it up, and then that's what my children would snack on before lunch. That's how I kept them from starving, along with some summer sausage and crackers, and that was my not necessarily my trick, but that's what they snacked on.
But I think that's something most kids would eat.
Yeah,
It's cheap.
yeah, and to this day they still like it. It's not bad, but I was not allowed to bring side dishes. Mm-mm. No, you just show up and help, and that was it. Because she wanted to make everything else.
But I think a lot more parents are open to letting people bring stuff now instead of feeling like they have to do the whole big production all on their own.
I think so too. So let's get down to it. How do you decide who brings what? We started out with since I knew that we were going to be at dad's, we would just do the turkey because it made more sense for us to keep the turkey warm at dad's house. Now, my fiance was going to be smoking the turkey for us since he has a smoker. He smoked it and then he had vacuum sealed it. He deboned it and had it all carved up, and then he vacuum sealed it for us and then brought it cold. And then we reheated it and kept it all warm for everybody until they got there that evening. And then I just asked the sisters, okay, what do you want to bring? What do you want to do? And that's kind of how we divided things up. Um, so one sister brought the green bean casserole and funeral potatoes. I'll tell you what those are later. And then the other sister wanted to make sweet potatoes. What else did we have? Oh, and I made rolls. Is that it? Is that all we had? It might have been all we had. It
So
was plenty.
I really just deferred to the host.
Hmm.
So figuring it was their kitchen, they could pick first. And so they're very similar to what your plan was. They all did the proteins and then kind of assigned sides. And what I really, really appreciated was my husband's family said, it's okay if it's store-bought, but she asked me to bring the dinner rolls and was okay if they weren't homemade. And I thought, you know what? I really love that grace to the store-bought's okay. It's about us getting together, not who can outshow each other on their home baking skills. So
Exactly, exactly. And if you've got people that are traveling in from a distance, don't ask them to fix something. They don't want to have to transport food. I mean, that's my theory. If they offer to, then Yeah, absolutely. Let them buy something. Or, yeah, absolutely. And you got to think food safety too. Let them bring the bread. Don't ask them to transport something that's got to be kept cold or warm. You got to think food safety. Um, but we did have desserts too. One of my daughters made a pie. She made pecan pie.
Well, and so I traveled over an hour for both of my Thanksgivings. And I know your family, when you're talking traveling, you and your sisters all live within what, 15 minutes of each other.
Right. Yeah,
So it's a little different travel time. Cold is easier because you can put it on ice packs and keep it in
exactly.
a cooler, and make sure, what's that magic temperature? Keep it below 40 degrees.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep, yep.
Yep.
And so, but hot is it is harder. So I was gonna pick on you. So did you use a food thermometer when you were reheating your turkey?
I did. I
Oh,
did. I did. Because okay, don't tell the fiance that I said this, but he he had it in those vacuum sealed bags, and he's like, "Oh, just put those into some boiling water and heat it up that way."
mm,
And I said, "Okay, yeah, I guess that'll work." Because I was gonna open up the vacuum sealed bags, put those into the roasting pan, and stick that into the oven until it got hot enough. And he's like, "No, no, 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 just put that in some boiling water." So I did, but I wasn't sure it was going to get hot enough that way, so I didn't trust him. And it did. It was fine. It was fine.
well, the vacuum sealed bag, what I like about that is that kept all your moisture in.
It did,
If you
exactly. Yeah.
put it in a dry oven, dry heat, you might have ended up with drier turkey than you wanted. So,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
what's your temperature on your food thermometer?
So it got up to 165.
There you go. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Now I did not temperature check my sister's green bean casserole. She brought the green bean casserole and she had it all wrapped up in some really thick towels and kind of kept it insulated and warm. I mean, it seemed like it was warm enough, but her don't tell her this, but it tasted a little. The green beans are crunchy. I don't know whether she used a different kind of canned green beans or what, but
you
you
do
also
know
know
you
that
just
Jody's
said
a
that
picky
on a
eater.
recording, right?
Yes, I realize that. You also
Mhm.
know that Jody's a picky eater. And I also turned my nose up at the stuffing that the other sister made because it had mushrooms in it. So,
But that's a really interesting way to sneak some vegetables in on maybe your non-veggie eaters.
exactly. I was prepared for the celery. I was not prepared for the mushrooms.
So maybe if the mushrooms had been chopped up finer, would you have missed them?
Probably.
Yep.
Probably.
That's one hint to get a few more veggies in on.
It,
I have a son who currently says, "Oh, that's a vegetable. I won't eat it." Um, so we're into disguised vegetables at the moment. So
uh-huh. 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 So did you have any weird stuff brought to Thanksgiving dinner?
um
And did you whip out your thermometer?
I do not whip out my thermometer. I'm probably a little more laid back. That's why I knew to ask you. So I will say Troy also smoked a turkey and we did meet thermometer that. Yeah, made sure it got done. The others, I mean, turkeys come with those little pop-out thermometers and they're fairly accurate too. And you just got to make sure things are cooked long enough. Always worry about hot holding or when people, like you said, just wrapped it up in
Yeah,
towels and kept it
for
warm.
sure.
I mean, as long as it's within a couple hours and then put in the fridge fairly quickly after you eat, um, you're meeting most of those food safety guidelines. Um, I'm fortunate that I don't have a family who just leaves everything out and snacks all day on food that should be hot.
And
Um,
does your family make fun of you because you're like the food safety queen?
Um, no, because I probably don't say much to them,
Mm,
especially at the in-law side of it. I mean, yeah, but
I do frown at mine a lot. I'm like, you got to put that up. You got to cover that. Is that really safe to eat? So I do get made fun of. I'm just saying.
Well, yeah. But you're with your sisters you grew up with. So I
Exactly.
would say I do say more things like that to my own sister than I ever would my in-laws. So um okay, so we've talked about being at that point in life where holidays are changing. So was that a hard transition for you?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. And I think we could do well, in fact, we probably will do a whole other discussion on, grief and dealing with loss during the holidays. And that was part of it. Just dealing with, because, I lost my mom in 2021, right after the holidays. She passed away in January, right after the holidays. And that just getting through the holidays is hard. And then, and I know it's really hard on dad to have the holidays in his house without mom. And then, to use her plates and use her dishes. But I think it was important for us to do that and um, to celebrate there and to honor her that way. It is.
So
But it
I
wasn't to do the dinner. I mean, we all know how to serve dinner. We all know how to make dinner. We all know how to do it. But the funny thing is that for Christmas, and I don't know how to take this, but do you know what my dad wants to do for our Christmas gathering? And we'll celebrate after Christmas. Just guess. He wants us to order hog wild barbecue.
okay. Well, that's interesting on several fronts.
So I don't know whether that means he didn't like our cooking or he just really wants hog wild barbecue.
Okay.
But he has mentioned it several times. I think in his mind, he thinks that'll just be easier. He doesn't want to bother us.
And maybe that's his thought. It's his Christmas gift to you that you and your
Maybe.
sisters don't have to cook,
Yeah.
which would be an
And
interesting
I'm not
Christmas.
endorsing a product here, but that just sounds really good to him, and that's what he would like. And who am I to tell him no if that's what he wants?
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
I think that's where we have to, and like you said, we could do a whole podcast on, the holidays and grief. Because I'm in a similar boat. We lost my mom in 22. So,
Mhm.
yeah, that's you've thrown me for a loop here because that's a
Yeah.
whole different series of food safety issues too we could talk about on transporting food because I know that establishment happens to be an hour away from your house.
Yeah. Yeah.
So buying hot food and transporting and keeping hot and
Well,
okay.
I think you can get it cold and then reheat it. I
Okay,
think.
well that would be
I don't know. I know we're gonna look into it. And see how that goes. We had kind of gotten away from, when we do our Christmas afterwards with the family, kind of gotten away from having a big dinner. Sometimes we just do soups and things a little more casual anyway. So I think Dad just really thought this sounds like thing to do. Um, Dad will be 83 on Monday. Um, and he's just yeah, that's kind of what he we're just like, okay, whatever. So yeah,
that yeah.
just
It's
you just
about
go with the flow.
making the memories. So
Exactly.
this
Yep.
would be a memory for sure.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's about making new traditions. You still want to honor some traditions, but why not make some new memories, make some new traditions? I mean, why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. like you said, your family gets together after the holidays anyway, so it's not like everybody's going to say we had store-bought food for Christmas. This is your family's Christmas time gathering, just
Yep.
Christmas Day. So, okay. So well, we talked a little about food and cooking and who's cooking what. I do know I wanted to make sure allergens and secret ingredients. Do you have anybody who makes that secret dip or you talked about hiding vegetables, but do you have any family secret recipes in your house?
I I do not. I may not ask the niece from Colorado to make the brownies, but other than that, I don't really have any um, secret ingredients. The in-laws that I used to have used to put oysters in their dressing, but I knew that they were in there, and I just chose not to eat the dressing because I don't like oysters in my dressing. Um, but you're right, you shouldn't have secret ingredients in anything because there's a lot of allergies out there. My fiance is a celiac, and he is highly allergic to gluten. He has a very bad wheat allergy, and he just doesn't, by and large, does not eat when he's at other people's houses because
It's
you
just
just
not
don't
work.
know.
Yes, yes. So, well, I'm going to hit the top 9 allergens in 2023. We used to always say it was the top 8, but now there's the top 9. Milk and eggs, fish, and then shellfish is a separate one, which is like crabs. And then tree nuts and peanuts are separate. So there's 2 more. Wheat, soybeans, and now sesame has been added to the list. So if you have allergens, those are the most likely ones that you're going to see. I know in my husband's side of the family, we have peanut allergies. And so we have to always really think through. And I'll admit once that, I made Rice Krispie cookies and went, oh, these are always so good, and made the ones with peanut butter in them. Luckily, on the way to the event, he said something. This was prior to me being married into the family. And I went, I made those
Uh,
Rice Krispie treats with peanut butter.
oh my
So
gosh.
they stayed in the car. We did not
Yeah,
cause a, medical emergency, but we just opted to totally leave them in the car. And so we
yeah.
didn't have to tell anybody to avoid them. Um,
Well, and you just wouldn't believe all the things that have wheat in them or have flour in them or have come into contact with things that have flour. I mean, I've learned so much. Um,
well, absolutely. If you have allergens, you almost have to prepare your own food, and then you
yes,
still worry about cross contamination. Um,
cross-contamination is a real thing. Yes, 100%. Yes, 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 yes.
so
Yeah.
I just anytime I have somebody with allergies, I just love to involve them in the planning. What can we do?
Yeah.
Especially church potlucks or anything like that, you can't avoid it. But um, we have some allergens in our church, and so we've actually gone to hiding the gluten free in the kitchen. And so anybody who's gluten free just knows to go get out of the kitchen section and not the stuff that's out on the
Oh,
table.
that's smart.
Somebody else.
Yeah, that's smart. Yeah.
Try to
Yeah, I know my fiance absolutely avoids the church potlucks altogether, so he just doesn't even try it. They're that bad. He got really sick at one and never again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I, I can
I guess I
understand.
blame him. Yeah,
It's not worth it.
no,
Um,
it's just not. It is absolutely not.
and
Um,
when you can make that choice, if you live that way every day or you're traveling for a number of days, you just, you know, try to honor those people who do spend time with you. Like you've learned how to help cook for him
yes.
or
Well,
to allow him to cook.
I let
for
him cook
you.
for himself.
Yeah.
I just let him do it. It's easier that way. I can't believe you didn't jump on my brownie joke. I'm a little disappointed in you. I'm, mov-
Nope.
I'm moving on. Um, so I do want to ask you about in the same vein though, there are some gatherings where alcohol is involved. My family likes to imbibe at our family gatherings, especially since we were having an evening Thanksgiving meal. Um, we had we had alcohol at our Thanksgiving dinner. Uh, I know Reed, my significant other, brought some homemade wine that he had made, and we had Dad always has some Corona in the refrigerator. I mean, we always have a little bit of alcohol, or sometimes I'll bring a bottle of wine, and that's just kind of generally accepted in our family. But some families don't, or if a guest brings something and the family doesn't necessarily drink. How does your family? How's that handled?
So our family, I guess I would say my family of origin that I grew up in, we never had alcohol at meals like that. Um, it just wasn't something we did. It wasn't that anybody ever spoke out against it. But it's just never been that big of a deal to have alcohol, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not like I grew up with a family that enjoyed drinking wine or anything
I
like
don't know
that.
that we
Just
did it
wasn't.
when that we had it a lot when we were little. As we've gotten older, you know, mom especially like to have a margarita on Christmas Eve. And we certainly enjoy a glass of wine with dinner. And dad really has gotten into having, a glass of wine or something with dinner. And it's just kind of an enjoyable way to enjoy your meal. It really is.
So I think what is most important to remember is grace, that we don't all agree, and you're not doing it to be unkind to anybody who can't drink or doesn't drink or doesn't believe in drinking. Um, and much the same way with my family, I think if somebody showed up with a bottle of wine as a guest, um, I mean, opening it better be screw top. I'm not sure if we could find a bottle opener or not,
Yeah.
but I mean, I think just to be grace and to allow everybody to be who they are, um, at holiday dinners, um,
Well, a lot
you
of
know,
people bring them as a gift for the host or hostess. Yeah.
and so if it's given as a gift, that's real easy because then the hostess can say, "Oh, let's open this up and we all enjoy it," if that's part of their tradition, or
Hmm.
thank you so much.
I'll save it
We'll
for
enjoy
later.
this later. Yep. You can
Yep.
handle it that way. Um, and I think, for I think about all the family that I got to meet a little later in life because I was married a little later in life. Asking those questions ahead of time, discreetly with somebody that's been with that family can really help just alleviate that concern if you're worried about it. Whether
Yeah.
you should show up with a bottle of wine,
Right. Right.
if there's a bartender in your family, they might be offended that they thought you needed to bring a bottle of wine. They wouldn't have what you'd want. So
Yeah.
just ask those questions. It could go any which way when you start talking about alcohol and family traditions. And there's some families that alcohol has been such a negative in their lives that you know might react real poorly. So that would be important to know um,
Right. Yeah. Some of those
before you do.
conversations are good to have. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what are your Christmas plans?
You know what? I am still waiting on who's going to speak first.
Yeah.
I've talked with my sister, and so she is a nurse and works 12-hour shifts and is working Christmas. So there's a good chance we'll get together either Christmas Eve or a couple days after. But so I'm really not sure, and I'm not sure what my husband's family's planning yet. How about you? What's your plans?
Well, mine's still kind of up in the air as well. I may go with Reed with him. He's going to his parents' house in Colby, and his kids will join him there and on Christmas Day. We'll go to church at my church on Christmas Eve. Or I may stay here and spend Christmas Day with my dad. I just haven't decided yet. My kids will go with to their aunt's house at Wamego and have Christmas Day with their aunt and uncle at Wamego on Christmas Day. And then we'll do Christmas with my dad, I think on the 27th is the plan. With my oldest sister and her husband on the 27th, I think is the plan. Yes. So just haven't
The,
decided yet.
the older we get, the more we have to plan to make sure we do get to spend time with the ones we love.
I know. I know. Dad's having some health issues right now, and I don't know whether I want to leave. I mean, it's not like he's gonna go anytime soon, but um, I don't know whether I want to leave him alone on Christmas Day or not. I mean, he'll be fine if I do, but you know,
Yeah,
just the decisions, decisions,
and
decisions, decisions.
that brings up a whole nother topic of about people who do spend Christmas Day alone, and you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, it does.
there's been times that just because of scheduling and the way Christmas fell, that we were doing it afterwards, and I spent Christmas Day alone. And I'll never forget the one when my boss invited me out and we went to the movies. Because she was married to a nurse, and so
Mhm.
he was working and she was spending Christmas Day alone, and I was, and she told me to pick a movie, and I picked one where aliens blew things up, and I'm like, this was not what I expected. Should have done more research before we went to a movie on Christmas Day, but makes memories either way, that's for
It does.
sure.
I remember my first Christmas without the girls after I was divorced, and I spent it with my sister, my middle sister, who's also divorced. We watched Hallmark movies all day. It was delightful. It was really actually not bad at all.
So that sounds way more delightful than aliens blowing things up.
I think we
um,
sat around in our pajamas and watched Hallmark movies all day, and it was great. So it wasn't bad at all.
you
Not
know
bad.
i
So anyway,
I just, yeah, we can talk about that some more too on coping
yeah,
with the holidays. So
yeah.
anyway, well, we did
Um,
it, Jody.
we did.
We did it. So anyway, we invite people to follow our podcast and keep up with the next ones we put out in this series. So
Yes, so they can find us on socials as well, can they not? We each have our Facebook page, correct?
correct. So Barber County Extension, and then yours is Pratt County
White County
Extension, correct?
Extension, correct?
Yeah.
Yep,
So you can
yep.
find us. We'll share this there and share links to, I believe this is going to be in Spotify and Apple Podcast.
We certainly hope so. We're new
So
at this. Bear with us. It'll get better, hopefully.
all right. Well, thank you for your time today, Miss Jody, and we'll be talking
Thanks,
later.
All right.